So when I was a kid, Easter was a really big deal in our house because we would all get new clothes. We'd get usually new shoes, and we'd get new shoes that had to be really, really polished, and we'd get a new shirt and a tie, of course, a wonderful, very convincing clip-on tie, and new pants and a jacket, and we'd all look really good. Get our hair cut. I particularly remember one Easter I was about 8 years old. I got this very same haircut. That they say that men usually keep their haircut they pick a time in their life that was a particularly good time, and that's the haircut they have for most of their life. I was 8 years old at the time. And so on this particular Easter, we were all looking good. My mother was very proud. We had the speech about how we were to behave in church. Now, we went to church all the time, but Easter this was big church. This was big church, and we all looked good. In fact, my sister had, this was a very auspicious Easter for her because it was the first time she was going to be allowed to wear high heel shoes. She was 16, and she had worked for months. She sewed beautifully. She had made her own outfit. She had made a dress and a coat, and she was styling. I remember thinking how beautiful she looked. She had a hat, and women wore gloves to church then. I know this is archaic, but this is back east. It was cold. It was a wintry Easter, and we are all walking into church, and my mother is just beaming with pride because we do not look dysfunctional at all. We don't. We look so good, And, the frosting is on very thick, in other words, right? And the boy that my sister likes from high school is there leaning against the church, looking tough, probably smoking. And he looks at my sister, and my sister looks at him, and he looks at her, and she looks at him, and he looks at her, and she looks at him. And somewhere in there was this patch of black ice. And my sister hit the black ice, and we had this family moment of suspended animation where my sister was in midair like this for a while before she hit the deck. My brother and I were hysterical. This was the kind of slapstick that we really appreciated in life. It's like the kind of thing that if the Three Stooges did it once, it was funnier the fifth time, And we were out of our mind, hysterical. My mother was mortified. My sister was in tears. The boy walked off. It was just her worst nightmare. We go into church, and my mother during the service, had to move between my brother and I because we could not stop snickering. We were shaking. And you know how when you get to that point where the more you try to suppress it, the more it comes out? You're blowing snot out your nose, and you're shaking, and you're trying not to. And she was pinching our ears and squeezing our knees and stuff. And it's finally, we would just get calmed down, and one of us could hear the other one go, "Oh." And we would start all over again. This was the funniest thing we had ever seen in our life. You know what I mean? I was 8 years old. Now, we bring this up, of course, at family things. And my sister said, and I remind my sister that this was the best Easter I'd ever had. Because for the rest of the day, my brother and I kept acting this out all day long. We just kept going outside and going, "Oh, look, I'm Leslie. Looking at her." In that way that only younger brothers can really do. And my sister, being the loving soul that she is, says to this day, "I'm so glad you remember it so fondly."